Dr. Jackson, do you want this to be because this is a money-making entity, do you want it to be entity on tape? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
No, you're not worried.
No.
And how have you been able to use the library with much of your research, or with your research?
I will say that the library has been an enormous help. And see, I've been here I've been at AUC Center since 1981. And it was kind of raggedy at first, the library. Now it's...
Wait a minute. What do you mean raggedy? Tell us what raggedy is.
Okay, raggedy is it would take, first of all, a lot of things in my area we didn't have.
Right.
Okay. And also, when you did interlibrary loan, it was very cumbersome. You had to fill out papers, and sometimes you'd have to pay, and sometimes you didn't. And it just didn't seem to be organized. That's my opinion.
Okay.
And, plus you had to walk over here, too. But see, this was before you had the technology.
Yeah.
So you had to walk over here, fill out the papers, and go back, and then you would get a call or a letter through snail mail.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had to come, you'd wait for that, and you had to come back over here, or you might get a call.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, ugh. So I would go down to Georgia State.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I went down there is they just had more of the stuff that was in my area.
And now?
And now, I'm amazed because about 5 or 6 years ago, shortly before I started on this, 4 years ago, I used interlibrary loan. I did this all on the internet, and I was stunned. I mean, everything that I have asked for, I've been able to get. Most of it just gets sent to me, and sometimes it gets sent. Like, I put in something, I was amazed. In fact, this last paper that I'm working on now with Light, I put in requests for 4 things on Monday. And when I came to the lab yesterday, 1 was already there.
That service.
But usually it takes 2 or 3 days. And one thing, it's been a couple things I said, they're going to have a hard time trying to find this. But they found it. It might take 2 weeks, but they found it because there is an individual named Charles Turner who was the first African-American animal behaviorist. I've been doing research on him for about 5 or 6 years. Yeah, longer than that. I'm just collecting stuff on him. And some things are very difficult, but this library has been able to find it. In those cases, stuff's real hard to find. It's sometimes been hard copies where I had to come down and pick it up, where it can be done electronically. But it has been an enormous help, and it's so convenient now. I mean, I can sit in the lab or be at home and just get online, put the stuff in, and I get it. And a couple of times they told me, they said, well, look, Dr. Jackson, we have this. You just need to go, and pull it up, which I didn't know. But, whenever they say that, whenever they have that, which has surprised me, I just make a note so I don't ask them for that particular stuff in general anymore. But that's where it's been a major help, is references and articles.
Some of our audience may be thinking about writing a book, and they may be intimidated. And how could you, could you give us some ideas in reference to this process? Okay,
what I would say is that, and I know I can be intimidated. I mean, I've written articles, and I just finished a children's book. But there is a book that I'm working on too, on Charles Turner. And, I know it can be a daunting task. What I would say is, number one, is write something, number one, that really interests you. And then second, research it. The other thing is that since we are an AU Center, we're still primarily, for the most part, a teaching institution, you don't have as much time because you've got to spend time with teaching and also service to your institution, being on committees and this and that, is to try to carve out a certain time each day, or carve out some big chunks maybe during the week, if it's only like once a week or twice a week. One of the things, I'm chairman of my psych department, and I always advise my junior faculty is to try to have one day during the week you don't have any classes and any office hours. And use that day to be your writing day. During the summer, because I collect data. But during the summer Mondays, I don't come on campus at all. I don't go to the laboratory. I use that day just to write. So I would say, write something that you would enjoy writing about, researching something you know about, but then try to get in a routine of either a certain time each day or a certain time Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or one day a week. You try to be disciplined in that.
Now, I have to ask you about the bats.
Okay.
As a pollinator, because that's so fascinating to me, because I just like bats.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And I know it's not your primary thing.
Right.
Say something about bats and pollination.
Okay, well, a lot of people think when you talk about pollination, you just think about butterflies and bees. But when it comes to pollination, you also have beetles, flies, bats, hummingbirds, and even small mammals at the size of rats. Now, bats, one thing that's unique about bats, if you think about it, when it comes to flight, there's only really two groups of animals that can fly. Those are birds and insects. That's it, with one exception, bats. Bats are mammals that can fly. The only ones that can't fly. Now you got what they call flying squirrels, like Rocky and Bullwinkle. You probably remember that.
Yeah.
You remember Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah.
A flying squirrel is not really a flying squirrel. It glides, but bats can fly. Bats, and bats are really cool in the sense that, they send out sonar and things bounce back and they're able to go around at night. And people talking about blind as a bat. Well, bats aren't blind. Bats can see. They don't see that well, but they can see, so they're not blind. And yes, there are vampire bats, but they're small. They live in South America. And what they do is they tend to bite cows. When they bite people, they tend to bite them on their toes. They don't go bite you on your neck and you're not going to turn into a vampire, but they are vampire bats. When I was on my way to Africa one time, we stopped in Switzerland and we went to the zoo, and they had these fruit bats. And these fruit bats are like 3 feet. 3 feet, they're enormous. It's a good thing they're fruit bats and not carnivores. Or it's a good thing that you don't have vampire bats that big. That would be really difficult. Vampire bats are little.